The Poisoned Manuscript by Thibaud Bachard. Read by Juanita Grande. Copyright 2020 Thibaud Bachard. All rights reserved. She was feeling tired and a bit depressed when she exited the library. With a heavy step, she walked toward her car, parked not too far away, in the shade, on the third level of an austere-looking public parking structure. She was about to open the car door when something familiar caught her eye. A person, a face she recognized in profile, walking briskly between the rows of parked cars. Familiar features that suddenly re-emerged from out of the past. Martha held her breath. Then she remembered the woman's name, Shelly Stewart. She tossed her things onto the passenger seat and nearly slunk off without a trace. But then she thought, Shelly, whatever happened to Shelly? 12-year-old memories flashed in her mind like the trailer of a film from another time, in the company of friends, going out, at parties and crowded bars, dreaming of their future. They had been friends, though not close ones, and then one day they lost touch with one another. Now more than 10 years had gone by, and whatever happened to Shelly Stewart? Didn't she study international law? Shelly's hair was a pretty brown and longer than Martha remembered, her face plumper. But then, she thought, I've changed too. Both women were wearing cotton jumpsuits, pastel blue in Shelly's case, black for Martha. Martha's shoes were black and worn, Shelly's beige and new. Since Martha had started living alone, she found it difficult just going up to people. She always thought she was disturbing them. But this case was obviously different, since Shelly knew her. Martha got up on her tiptoes and waved in her directions. Wary at first, the other woman sped up. Then Martha yelled, Shelly? She stopped, turning her head cautiously. How old was she? 30, like Martha? Something like that, though she looked younger. She immediately recognized Martha, of course. Blonde, tall, 30-ish, face as pretty as her slender figure in her casual apparel. Shelly's face and eyes lit up, and she smiled suddenly, feeling slightly ridiculous at the fear she had felt due to being alone and defenseless in the parking structure. Martha! God, it's been forever. What are you doing here? I just left the library. I'm working on a manuscript, her tone slightly blasé. A manuscript? Does that mean you're a novelist? Shelly ventured. Not exactly. I was an English teacher, but I finally quit teaching to devote myself exclusively to writing. Is that right? That's a funny coincidence. How so? Shelly opened her handbag, took out a little white plastic ID badge and showed it to Martha. I just so happened to be temping at Sutton & Black Publishing, she said with an air of satisfaction. Martha couldn't believe it. She leaned in and gazed with a strange fascination at Shelly's photo beside the company name. That's crazy. Yeah. Are you free right now? Absolutely, said Shelly. Let's grab something to drink. The modern look so typical of Starbucks was comfortable and welcoming, the embodiment of trendy. A well-lit, loft-style space with regionally inspired furnishings and fabrics created a place of contemporary calm, removed from the tumult of the harried world outside. By the 20 or so people inside at 4 p.m. on a Thursday were many tourists speaking languages other than English. Martha ordered a peach lemon iced tea. Shelly, a mug of tea with milk. Martha sat her glass down. God, it's been a long time. 10 years at least. I think you'd just graduated. Martha nodded. That's right. Yes, I remember now. You were leaving California to move in with your dad in New York. I see you've still got a great memory. Martha gave a muffled laugh. Shelly continued. Thanks to the money he gave me, I was able to pursue my law studies, but unlike you, I didn't make it. Even if my dad never showed it, I think he was deeply disappointed. I did a bunch of odd jobs, mainly in legal studios. I probably could have found a stable employment at a good company, but life in New York exhausted me, and I missed the West Coast. A year later, I finally came back. They both took a sip of tea, and Martha asked, Are you married? When she saw Shelly tense up, however, she realized her question might have been inconsiderate, if not downright stupid. Sorry, I was insensitive to... Shelly managed a shy smile. No, it's okay. Don't worry about it. You mean, did I find the man of my dreams? Martha was no longer accustomed to dealing with reality, much less the actual problems of other human beings. She was embarrassed and already regretted having suggested this reunion. She was also mad at herself for asking a question like that without first examining Shelly's hands with fingers that were bare, ringless, devoid of any adornment. It's just that I seem to remember back in the day you often talked about how one day you were going to marry a rich man. You're right, Shelly replied. Then all of a sudden she burst out laughing, as though evoking this memory had lifted a huge weight off her shoulders.
Unbelievable. You still know me after so long. I'm going to tell you, it's the first time I've felt like I can confide in someone.
Martha's feeling of regret intensified, yet she softened her voice and said, "You can tell me anything, Shelly."
I thought I'd found the love of my life. Gary Pickman seduced me from the very first time we met. The company I was working for at the time was hosting a gala evening to support cancer research, and Gary was one of the most important guests, the ones who give their money generously, though I know now that this generosity was nothing but an illusion.
I don't follow.
For each donation he made, he pocketed twice as much. The art of giving and receiving, as he explained to me. Gary was a Wall Street trader, and I confessed that what he did with his money didn't interest me at the time. I loved him, you understand.
Martha nodded. Shelly went on.
I was madly in love with him. The aura he gave off and the life of luxury he offered me, nothing else mattered. The Plaza Hotel had become my kingdom, our kingdom. I had never imagined experiencing such bliss. Then one day, my entire universe came crashing down. I had finished work early and gone to do a little shopping at Rockefeller Center when I surprised him arm in arm with another woman.
"Oh, I'm so sorry," said Martha. "What did you do?"
I wanted to be absolutely sure, beyond a doubt, that he was cheating on me with this woman. That caramel-skinned beauty he had his arm around wasn't just an acquaintance. So I followed them from a discreet distance. After only a few steps, right in the middle of a crowd, they stopped, and I saw them kiss, sensuously kiss.
"How awful," said Martha.
I should have left, but what I was seeing hurt too much. I couldn't resist. I screamed out his name, raced over, and slapped him square in the face. At first he was stunned, but then he broke into a smile. It was then I realized that I'd been in love with a bastard of the worst kind. I turned around and left, far, very far away from him.
Now I see what brought you back to California. But I have to say I'm not surprised. Lots of men are like that. They're erratic. Most of them are genuine hypocrites. I've yet to find my Prince Charming either. Martha failed to mention that she had had an affair with a married man, a father of 2 young children, for several years. Martha had done all she could to get him to divorce, but infuriated by her behavior, he ended up breaking things off with her for good. She thought theirs was the perfect romance. He was a plastic surgeon and made a great living, so much so that he bought her a nice apartment on Wilshire Boulevard, in her name no less. In retrospect, however, she realized that it was above all for him and that he had made this purchase as a pied-à-terre, a cozy love nest where his mistress could patiently await him. She had let herself enjoy the comforts of this new life of ease, even quit teaching in the hope that he would end his marriage and wed her instead. She turned into a kept woman and passed the time attempting to become a successful novelist, but in vain. Yet since he left her, Martha had filled his absence by working feverishly on her new novel, as though this painful breakup, this emotional shock, had been what she needed to write. Unlike Shelley, however, Martha would never reveal the love she had felt for this man. She knew she'd seem like a homewrecker, so she decided to be vague on the topic.
You don't have anyone in your life?
Said Shelley, stunned. No, not at the moment. It seems neither one of us have been very lucky in this domain, Martha replied, and the anger she had felt back then made its way even now into her voice and cheeks, which turned red. Solitude is good for me.
Doesn't it affect you?
How do you mean?
Being so beautiful, and yet not taking better advantage of life's opportunities.
Of course it does, but next time I'd like to be the one in control.
So would I, Martha. So would I.
Martha decided to change the subject. Tell me about your job at Sutton and Black.
It's my 3rd short-term contract with them. I'm replacing a pregnant woman as manuscript reader.
At least it'll keep you afloat for a while, Martha suggested teasingly.
I guess so.
They slowly sipped their tea, and Martha saw the unhappiness in Shelley's face. She doesn't want to spend her life reading manuscripts even for a prestigious publisher like Sutton and Black, thought Martha. Poor thing. She wants to be swept off her feet. She was in 7th heaven in New York, and this creep left her completely devastated. What a pathetic joke running into her right now, when I, too, am a mere shadow of my former self, bordering on penniless, a novelist without a future. Then something clicked into place. She began to think. Thinking the way she had when she'd been writing in her apartment, like she was busy doing an hour earlier in the library, immersed in the plot of her story. For each of her novels there had been this click, this idea she had found irresistibly appealing, and that had led her to love writing. She had written 3 novels that all the big publishers had unfortunately passed on, forcing her to take the self-publishing route to see her work in print. The results, in other words, had so far been quite underwhelming. What she lacked was recognition. Since her breakup, writing had become the engine of her life. She hadn't felt this desire to create for a long time, and here and now she knew this last click heralded the beginning of a new story. But this one would be different. She wouldn't write it back to her apartment or anywhere else. No, this time there would be no book. She would be the protagonist in her own story, a new experience for a new life. Shelly was staring at her, curious.
Martha, what is it?
I think I've found the answer to our problem, Shelly. It can work. We can do it.
What are you talking about?
Money.
What do you mean?
We've both reached the same point in our lives, Shelly. You've lost your pretty illusions. I've lost mine. I'm past the point of no return, and soon I'll be scraping the bottom of the barrel. Recently, I've gone through almost all the money I'd set aside.
You must have some savings.
You think so? So did I. But then I crossed paths with an extremely self-centered man, and now I've been living alone for over 6 months, unemployed, working on my novel. Now, all of a sudden, I've figured it out. I know how to get out of this situation. And you, Shelly, you're going to get out of it too. Shelly let out a joyless laugh, then her face turned serious.
What do you have in mind?
You work for a publisher, but that's not getting you anywhere, Martha reminded her. I have a book, but no publisher.
What's your manuscript about?
It's the story of an archaeology student, said Martha, who finds an untitled book on a heap of volumes that have been dumped in a dank New York alley. Reading the book leaves him in an extremely agitated state because the text it contains is so unsettling, so intriguing, that it may be something more than some unknown writer's attempt at good fiction.
What does he decide to do?
Go to the ends of the earth if necessary, to penetrate the book's mysteries and put an end to the doubts this text has aroused in him. Shelley shook her head.
Is it a series?
It could be. There's lots of other stuff too, about the Ark of the Covenant, Nepal, the secrets of antiquity. I'd explain the whole plot to you, but then you'd know far too much. Shelley burst out laughing.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Martha smiled. Shelley liked the story. I hate to inflict the last 6 months of my life on you, Shelley, but you have to read it.
Who's read it so far?
No one, Martha said. See what I mean? It can work.
Where is it?
Martha's eyes sparkled. Shelley had taken the bait. In my car.
Give it to me,
said Shelley.
I'll let you know my thoughts. If it's what I think, I'll rework it a bit to bring it in line with our editorial strategies, then propose it as though this book, your book, were worth its weight in gold. Martha, if I manage to convince them, the advance alone for this type of book is $2.3 million.
Martha looked stunned, but she nodded and said, That doesn't surprise me. Martha realized that the stakes had just changed. Now she held all the cards. It remained to be seen, though, she thought, whether or not she was up to the challenge. Shelley looked at her watch.
I need to go. Let's walk to your car.
You're right, said Martha. The sooner the better. They got up, cleared the table, and strode toward the parking structure. As they walked, Martha said, That makes $1.15 million each. More than 20 years of salary. I'll split everything with you. The royalties on the book sales, the movie and merchandising rights. As for taxes and all that, we'll have a CPA finalize all the details.
Martha, this is crazy.
Hardly, Shelley. What does your editor care whether this is my manuscript or one of those you receive every day as a first reader? What matters is grabbing their attention. Anyway, you have everything to gain. Don't forget that it's just a temporary job. When the woman you're replacing comes back, your publisher won't hesitate to let you go. No matter how diligent you are. Between her and you, they'll choose her. This woman has a full-time job. She'll get her spot back, just like before, and you will once again be out of work. Shelley furrowed her brow and tried to find some objections.
Yes, but if someone finds out...
They reached the car. Martha opened the door, relieved to see her bag on the passenger seat where she had left it. There won't be anything to find out, said Martha, taking out the manuscript, because once you finish tinkering with it, you'll give me a call and we'll meet back here so you can give it back to me. They exchanged numbers.
I understand,
said Shelley.
Then I imagine you're going to retype it on your computer to create a digital record of it before sending it to me by mail, correct?
Exactly. I'll mail it directly to your publishing company, like any old anonymous writer trying her luck. Here it is. Now it's up to you. Shelley felt the weight of it.
This is quite the tome.
Martha agreed. I know, and believe me, it's worth a shot. Shelly gave her a sympathetic smile.
Don't worry, I'll read it.